Welcome to the Open Mic, everybody. We do this call every week. MSPs requested that they wanted to see what we've been doing with the platform, what new features have been added, what bugs we fixed, and you folks wanted to do a little R&D or Robin duplication of automations that your MSP peers have been working on. A couple reminders, especially for the folks that are new to Rewst. Ask questions, ask for help, whether it's the ROC or the MSP community at large. If you're looking for ideas of what to automate, how to automate, even very specific questions, ask for help. One of the biggest indicators that I've seen of whether or not an MSP will succeed with automation is whether or not the MSP thinks they're an expert at automating right out of the box. In fact, MSPs that go in with the thought process of, I have a lot to learn, are the ones that typically succeed. With that, I know approximately, let me think, how many MSPs have succeeded that have never asked a question? Let me think, 2, 4, 9, 12, zero MSPs have succeeded without ever asking a question about automation. With that in mind, use your Discords. If you're interacting with us, please tag us or respond in the thread so we're notified. There are hundreds of channels that we're monitoring at the same time. With that, normalize Discord use. Before Discord, we did email. And before email, we did phone calls. And before phone calls, we used to ride our horses down to your business to do work. It's just a natural evolution of human communication. However, if you would prefer us use an older style, older method of communication with you, please reach out to your CS rep and we will get that arranged for you. Flow. I was supposed to share some slides for Flow today, and I am completely not ready to share the slides. Give me 1 second while I get my browser ready for this. Hold on, I'm going to share my screen now. Hopefully. Maybe. Window. You folks see my screen? I'm not in like presenter mode or anything.
Yep.
We're doing a call for speakers still. Here are some themes. You know, why do you want to automate? What workflows and apps are you building in automations? How, who, and where? We've got a code here. I'm sure someone will post the URL as well to submit your call for speakers. A couple things about speaking at a conference like Flow. You can talk about any type of automation as long as it's somewhat around the MSP space. You can talk about any tool. This is not just a Rewst-specific conference. This is an automation-specific conference. Come in and talk about automation. And then also, if you're new to public speaking, this is your chance to get in front of hundreds of people that all want to see you succeed. They don't care if you mess up. They don't want to see you fail. They're genuinely interested in what you have to say. I can't think of any other conference I'd want to go speak at where there's a room full of people that want to see me succeed. And the same can happen for you. With that, I think that's all I wanted to talk about. Anyway, get your tickets. I'm sure there'll be some URLs for you to go do that. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Ash. What's going on, Ash?
Thank you. All right, so before we get started, I do have just a couple announcements. I want to jump over and let Amanda say something, but before we do that, I'm actually going to put George on the spot. George, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name's George Smith, new here to the team at Rewst. Today is day number 5, so still asking lots of questions.
I expect to see George engaging in our community and here to help.
Please be kind.
Awesome. And now before we get into the formalities on the same vein of events, Write-A-Boom is coming up and there is some fun stuff that is happening there. And I wanted to give Amanda the opportunity to give us a quick update about that.
Sorry I'm not on camera today, guys. First of all, I also want to say welcome to George and just tell everybody here that George really loves it when you imitate his accent. It's his favorite thing in the world. So feel free, since everybody here loves to tease and have fun, just, you know, make him feel really welcome. So MSP Geek, so I'm an MSP owner, but I'm also on the board for MSP Geek. MSP Geek is going to be running an event at Write-A-Boom, a pre-day, if you will, and we are very thankful to have both Rewst and Huntress as sponsors. We're going to run a cybersecurity escape room. If you haven't signed up already, please sign up. Please make sure you're there in time for it. 1, because our lovely sponsors are going to make sure there's pizza and wings, and 2, because how do I say this in the most professional way possible? MSP Geek is known for doing fun things where we teach you things, but also where there's a lot of antics, and there will be a lot of antics as part of this cybersecurity escape room. I promise there will be very, very fun things. I have, for an example, a Kelvin who has agreed to be tied up with network cables. So just as an example, you really want to participate in this. So please go into the app and sign up if you're going to be attending the event. And if you're not already attending Write-A-Boom, really consider it because it is a fantastic event for security.
Thank you. Who's going to be there? Let us know in chat. All right. So now we are going to jump over to Daniel with the ex-ante group.
Hello, everybody. Once again, my Teams is not showing the right screen. Okay, I'm just going to try screen 2. Hopefully this is the right screen. All right, we have some interesting updates for you today on the engineering side of things. So a few new items that we have made domain links in the app page clickable. That's for App Builder. We've added unsyncing for app clones, updated our templates and scripts page, table column width, and also added a new integration, Google Enterprise License Manager. So when I say we've made the domain links in the app page clickable, you can just see on here, there's a domain name column, and when you click it, it'll bring you right to that app page. Cloning and syncing. If you have a cloned and synced app, or I guess a cloned app, when you see it, there'll now be this little, I guess, component at the top of the screen, which allows you to unsync or sync that clone, and a bit of extra functionality as well. We have also, this is more of a minor change. We've just made an update to the size of the column widths and, to account for these cool new chips that we have on the attributes. And then Google Enterprise License Manager. This one can be a bit, it's a bit maybe more tricky to set up. If you already have Google Workspace admin set up, it's very similar. But essentially, if you follow these steps, it's relatively easy to figure out. So if I just jump into my Google Enterprise License Manager, I'm really hoping that there's nothing too sensitive in here. What you're doing first is you're looking in your API library here, if you're in Google Cloud Console. So you'll go into the library, you're going to search for Enterprise License Manager, and you're going to make sure that this one is enabled. So I've already enabled this. From there, you are going to be going to the OAuth consent screen. So that is actually, no, it's not there. So if I go in, I'm going to my OAuth consent screen here. And from there, I have to edit it. And if you already have the admin SDK set up, you should have some scopes in there. So there's some very generic or very general items in here. The big thing that you're going to do is you're going to edit your scopes on here. So when you edit your scopes, you are clicking Add Remove Scopes, and essentially you just have to search for Enterprise License Manager. I added this as one of my scopes, updated it, save and continue. And then the last thing that I had to do that's part of the instructions here is I had to add this callback URI. And so if I go into my credentials, I believe this is where it is. Yeah, there's authorized redirect URIs. I already have one for Google Workspace Admin. This is for a local environment too, but I added this Enterprise License Manager. And from there, I can actually go and I would save and reauthorize, add my secret, client ID and secret. It'll ask me, and just using OAuth, it will successfully authorize. And from there, you'll have access to assign licenses, get licenses, assign licenses for product SKUs, as well as revoke licenses for Enterprise License Manager. I know that we talked about some of the Google crates that we added last week, but this is related to that. So I think we're going to talk about that a little bit more with JP coming up. For bug fixes, we are still doing some fixing around replication of crates into all of our regions. Most of you are probably in our US region, but we have 5 regions now. We have an Asia region, UK, EU, and a second US region. We've fixed some OAuth token refresh issues. One big thing that that I know was a request from a few of our non-one country code MSPs is there was a fix that was pushed for the duo list phones action that was failing when there were non+1 country codes. That's a relatively big thing that we've fixed this week, or a highly requested thing. What's coming? We have a generic GraphQL action that's still in the works, and we're testing with a few with the select group. We have a GitHub integration, granular forms permissions, cloning and syncing of app builder apps will be available to everybody. I think maybe this, if it wasn't released today, it'll be released next week, I believe. We have enable Nsight integration, which is coming up very soon. And then we have a SQL database integration refactor. Yeah, and I think that's about it. So we can go back to you, Ashley.
Daniel.
Hello.
I'm saying this, I wanted to see if you're going to say it. There was some conversation in the coop today about support access requests in Rewst. On our end, that feature is complete and is currently in review and QA. We wanted to demo it today, but the developer that created it, she lives in LA. And so she's dealing with that issue if you folks are watching the news right now. And so we hope to be able to demo it for you next Friday. Just a reminder, just because we demo the feature doesn't mean it's released. We just want to show you that we're actually worked on it and that we care as well, and we think we should have it too. All right. Thank you, Daniel.
Good call out. Thanks.
All right. So now we are going to jump over to our other regular new addition to our cycle. JP, what you got for us?
Hello. I've got some marketplace updates for you. That's what I've got for you. All right. We just released a refactor of our document M365 environments crate. That includes some cleanup of how the workflows were structured. We added automation logs to make it kind of easier to track what's going on in those. But those are live in the marketplace now. You don't have to do anything for it. It's just there. And we have a number of bug fixes for various crates. We're None of these are particularly exciting. They're just bug fixes. If you want to review the entire list, you can go to Rewst.help and check them out. The upcoming, the interesting stuff, the new stuff. We have a few new crates coming out. We have an alert on users with MFA enforced, update on-premise user attributes, and rewrites of Microsoft onboarding and onboarding. That's for users, Microsoft users. And all of these things are more or less complete and are currently just testing. And so we should have a pretty hefty set of releases next week. The Microsoft, real quick, the Microsoft, Daniel mentioned the Google Workspaces integration and crates. We're doing a lot of fixes for that, but those are going well so far. We're going to be demoing them as well on the open mic, but we're kind of waiting. We wanted to do all the different onboarding, offboarding crates at the same time. The reason we did the Microsoft refactors is we liked how the Google Workspace onboarding and offboarding was designed, and wanted to conform our Microsoft model to kind of match how they're laid out. That's it for me.
Thank you. All right. Now we are going to jump over to Brandon. Brandon.
Hey everyone.
It's been a while.
I'm back. I'm back. All right, let's share my screen. Let's see. No. Okay. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Awesome. All right. So, hello everybody. I missed you all. I am back, and we're going to start with the game tip of the week. So, I've been talking about this a little bit before the new year, but I got one. If you guys haven't seen one of these, this is a Mod Retro Chromatic, and it is basically an Uber Game Boy that has all kinds of cool features to it. So I've been playing Pokemon Silver, but they also have games that they made just for the Chromatic, like Dragon Inn, which is really, really, really awesome. So if you haven't seen one of these, I would encourage you, if you're interested, to go to a GameStop and try to find one, because they are starting to sell out everywhere, and I think you all should get one. So that's my game tip of the week. Go check out your GameStop and see if you can still get a Chromatic. Otherwise, shout outs to Omari, Chris, Erkin, Nick, Rohan, that's a cool name, I like that, maybe it's Rowan, Gishan and Fabian for passing the foundation certification. When you pass the foundation certification, for those of you who have not yet, you will get your prestigious certified Rooster badge in Discord, and you'll get access to our not so super secret Discord channel, where you can talk with the other bird brains who got their Discord badge. Also, congrats to Jen, Eugene, Straga, Richard, I can't say that well, Kyrillo, sorry if I said that wrong if you're here, Abraham and Naveen for passing the clean automation certification. You guys are awesome. That is when you have passed the clean automation, which is the next level above the foundation. So shout outs to all of you out there who have taken those and passed. You guys are awesome. For those of you who have not yet passed your certification, we would encourage you to do so by going through our CLUCK University courses and getting certified. Speaking of which, if you haven't already seen this or attended, we have the Rewst Foundation's Bootcamp also available, so you can take it either self-serve or you can take it live in a 2-day format with the legendary Eddie Chow. And yes, he is a legend, whether he will admit to it or not. So our next one coming up will be February 3rd and 4th. We're doing it on a monthly basis, and we've expanded the seats as well. So we want to have as many participants as possible. So to map this to self-serve, our part 1 is going to be lessons 1 through 3, and part 2 on February 4th will be lessons 4 through 7. So check it out if you haven't already, or if you just want to spend some time with the legend, Eddie Chow. Who wouldn't, right? Otherwise, you can make sure to join us in Discord and chat with us either in the CLUCK channel. Obviously, we're lurking in the coop and also in some of the other channels as well. Feel free to call us out if you have any questions for us directly. We are happy to jump in and help as well. And we have office hours where you can also get some more time with the legendary Eddie Chow if you have any questions in general about any of the content that you're going through. There is more content in the works, including some self-paced onboarding content and some initial automation basics for those who are just getting started and they want to wrap their head up around this a little bit more before diving into foundations and clean automation. And of course, there will be more to come as well. Alden, I see you. Otherwise, just some reminders. There's some feedback forms you can check out here. And you can check out our landing page at go.rewst.st/CLUCK University. And as far as some updated pages to the docs, we've just updated a few of them this week, the production crate list, app builder AMAs, and we have some new open mics added as well from previous weeks, and there are more things to come. So that is it for me. No blockers.
Thank you, Brandon, and welcome back. You'll have to let people know how many hats you were wearing.
Oh yes,
Hard mode.
my secret hats. Hold on.
All right, so now we are going to move over into our demos. And our very first one, I'm actually going to jump over to Omari. Did I say your name right? Are you on?
Yep, that's right.
All right, so this is your very first demo, right?
Yep, this is my very first demo. I've only been working in Rewst for about a month. This is actually my first time learning coding as well. I've never done coding either, so to go on a lot within the last month, so please forgive me.
Excited, let's go.
All right, well, let me share my screen. All right, so I'm a giant nerd. I love video games and anime, and to learn coding, learn Rewst and automation, I decided to go with Pokémon API and try to set up something so I can pull Pokémon data from like the actual Pokémon names, stats, levels, evolutions, and things like that across all of the games that he had for the last 2 decades. So this is Pokémon API, and you can see how it works. The form I created asks you to put in a Pokemon name, select a generation. It pulls all the generations from the Pokemon API and just loads them here, so you can just select one. And then you get to select how you want the results, whether it's the email address or phone number. So for the demo, I'm going to use Growlithe if anybody is familiar with Pokemon. And I'm just going to throw just a random dummy email in here, whatever. Once that runs, it goes to my workflow. And the way I had it broken down was that the beginning, it pulls the actual Pokemon it calls the API using the Pokemon you selected, which is CTX Pokemon. I started doing an error correction in here, but I never actually finished it. So if it gets the name, it pulls the Pokemon data, then it pulls the Pokemon species and drills through the API. So it gets all of the information related to that Pokemon. And then I get it to the evolutionary chain. If it has no evolutions, it goes to the end. If it has multiple evolutions, it drills through each one. And if it only has one, it just goes towards the end as well. Then it creates a webhook, and then it goes to a sub-workflow I created to either do the email or the text message. And in here somewhere, I created I parsed through all the data and to select the evolutions, as well as created the HTML form. So, the HTML information to pass through to the template that I created. This is my workflow for sending email and sending SMS. And this is the template that I created to pass everything out. And this is the end result. Pulls out the pictures, all the height data, the move names, the levels of learned based off of what game it is, because that switches, and then all the evolutionary data. But that's what I did.
Man, check out all the reaction. What's going on?
I was just gonna say, so you have like a pretty good mentor in Mendy here, but how did you kind of like pick this up? Where was your where'd you spend the most amount of your time?
Say that again?
Where did you spend like the most amount of your time like figuring this out?
Most of my time was really just trying to understand the API and then learning Jinja too. Again, this is my first time like learning code, so I had to learn it all from scratch. Mindy was a great help. He provided a lot of information, but yeah, I spent a lot of my day just using ChatGPT, Googling stuff, and just trying to figure out how to use Jinja and how it works in it, how I can interact with Rewst to get the results I wanted. And this wasn't the simplest API to learn because it's not structured well. Well, let me not say that. It's not structured well. It's structured where you have to drill through every single the bunch of pages to get to specific information. So it was a lot. It was fun. It was very fun.
Omari, what so since you said this is like your real time touching something with code, what did you do before you were touching Rewst?
I was help desk. I was a help desk team lead at a small MSP. I ran a group of 6 guys just doing basic everyday troubleshooting and getting servers and networks to stay up.
It's a really interesting point. Sorry, go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, I really, I love watching people go from 0 to 100. And from you going from a help desk role to doing automation is really cool to see. It almost helps that you had no baggage. You went in with a clean mind. I got to figure out how this works. I got to learn it. And then you did it. You didn't have any baggage.
Yeah,
I think that was a great thing to just, for me particularly, just not having any idea of what I'm doing, just jumping into the waters and not having anything preventing me from.
That's so interesting. Now, question Mendy, how did you identify that Omari was going to be a good fit for this? Like, what were there like correlative skills that you picked up on? I'm interested in that because I bet that there's so many potential power users across all of our MSPs on help desks and stuff like that. If people could identify those people and advocate for them, we could probably see a lot of this.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to answer that question because I happen to know Omari for like the last 15 years. So it's not like we've tested for and found skills that would fit. It was like I know him and therefore I picked him up. But I think the answer, if I were to think about it, objectively, is Omari is someone who always is interested in learning more, always looking for learning new things, and I think that's something that's definitely key. Always being curious and always looking to grow beyond what he currently knows. So that's something that's one of the reasons why I was interested in bringing him along with me, was because I know that about him.
Thank you, guys. That was awesome. All right, so now we are going to jump over to Tanner.
Real quick.
Oh,
I got a question.
yes.
Are you leaving it? Are you leaving it at that, or are you planning on doing anything further with this workflow?
So I plan on doing quite a few things. I want to put in the error corrections that I started, because right now, if you put in a bad name, it doesn't. It is the workflow is just going to error out. So that was one of the errors that I wanted to fix. And there's also some small issues with the API that I need to put an error correction for, but I also want to try to simplify it some because, as I said, I was building as I go, so I know I can fix the code up a bit and make it a little bit better, so it just runs faster and easier, and just add a few other features in there so it pulls other data as well. Right now, it pulls strictly stats, moves, and evolutions, but I want to put in regions and areas you can find it and things like that. So that's going to be a bit harder. So over time.
I was gonna say once you get your IVs and EVs in here, this better be great.
We'll want to see
this better be
a
great.
part 2 on what you do with this after some time for sure.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
And I was told to blame any errors I make on Daniel. So Daniel, this is on you, man.
Damn it, another one.
Don't worry, it's the American one. Daniel with a USA. Your fault. All right, Tanner, we're gonna jump over to you now.
Yeah, you able to hear me okay?
Yeah.
Perfect. I will share a screen real quick, and this is pretty short. We are just a few weeks into our Rewst journey. We haven't finished onboarding yet, but I had gone through the foundations course and was just needed a little bit of reinforcement on some of the topics covered there. So what I wound up coming up with is I actually wanted to start with a Subworkflow as sort of our first solo journey into Rewst without it being a guided experience. So what we wound up doing is we just wanted a way to handle alerts going into Slack channels. So I started learning a little bit about the Slack API. We couldn't do everything. It's a learning journey because we couldn't necessarily do everything just based on the Rewst setup in Slack itself. We had to add additional permissions, so we had to learn that piece of it. But the end goal of this is a very, I think, relatively small workflow, which we are able to then call with any future workflows that we need to. One of the things in mind on this is a on-call process for all of our techs. We want to be able to take any after-hours tickets that come in, and we want to be able to notify our techs and their supervisors in a Slack channel. That's how we handle it. So the way this works is we first populate a list of channels through Slack. In order to actually post to the channel, we can't use the channel name. We need to get the ID. So we do a lookup to get the channel ID. We have an optional argument in this workflow, which is the target group. So we can choose to send a notification to a group of people within Slack. Same thing as the channels. We can't call it just by name. We also need to look up the ID. So that's exactly why this workflow splits. The left side, we have the logic involved for looking up that group. And then the right side is simply just send a message to our desired channel. So throughout all of this, we had to refer back to a lot of the foundations material, such as when we needed to find the target channel ID. This is something that we went over and over again through foundations. Just a simple for loop, we're finding the channel ID and we're returning it, assigning that to a variable, and then so on. So the on-call notification portion is something that we don't have ready to go yet, but I did start messing with alerts out of SIP and what it looks like whenever it's being called as a sub-workflow. I'll jump back real quick. The only three variables going into here are the channel name, the message body, and the group we're notifying. So whenever we add this as a sub workflow, we're specifying the channel name, but all of the formatting of this message respects Slack Markdown. So we have our message body And here's where we've thrown all the logic to handle any variation in the alerts we're sending. And we can really format this however we want, but from the parent workflow level, so that everything within the sub workflow is the same. It works the same regardless of what we're running, if that makes sense. But I wanted to cover a little bit of that because last week there was conversation around sub workflows and what to make and what not to make a sub workflow. And this was what I gravitated towards, was finding something that we are definitely going to repeat in the future. In our case, we started from there, and now we're able to leverage that with our parent workflows. But that's all I got.
That is super awesome. I love that. I love the idea of the sub workflow starting too, because then you can test and trigger it even when it's in production, because you're just like let me just throw another trigger on there and test that out.
Yeah.
Super cool. Thank you so much for that, Tanner.
Thank you.
All right, let's jump over to Al.
Hey everybody. So yeah, we talked last week about showing simple automations just to help I guess newbies out, which we've had Rewst for over a year, and I still consider myself a newbie. So with that in mind, I want to show something that I've used that I built to help myself in building other automations. So a sub workflow that's just otherwise it's time consuming to do, and I don't want to do it all the time anymore. So threw this together. For some context, we've been doing a lot of automations recently where we check that all of our tools are installed on our client devices, so like antivirus and all of our agents basically. We want to make sure they're installed, checking in on the other end, that sort of stuff. We do as much automated troubleshooting as possible, but ultimately, if the device is having issues, we want to open up a ticket. And we want all of our tickets to be good tickets, meaning they're under the right company, they have the right config attached, stuff like that. This is what I found tricky and time consuming to do in each workflow. So let me share my screen. I guess I should have shared it a bit ago. Seconds. Okay, can you see that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
What I did was I made this workflow, again, to be used as a sub workflow. Basically, it takes in a Ninja device ID, which we use Ninja RMM and ConnectWise. So it takes in the device of an ID in Ninja, and it outputs an object that contains the ConnectWise config ID, the ConnectWise org ID, and then this might seem redundant, but the device ID that I passed it, as well as the device name. The reason I have these two in here is just I've been using this for I loop through a list of device IDs, and so I need to know which device belongs to, which object belongs to which device, basically. And then the device name, so I can throw that in the ticket just to make things pretty. Basically, so ignore these API retries and these retries. These are just for if the API fails and it just retries. So ignore these. They're just there for funsies, I guess. So we're going to start off getting the organization variables. The ones we're interested in are the CW manage company ID and then the Ninja org ID. So basically we're taking the Ninja device ID and then we're going to look up the company, the company ID in Rewst that matches the Ninja org variable. God, I feel like I'm really stuttering my way through this. Sorry about that. And then we're going to compare it with the organization variable for the ConnectWise thing. So get the org variables, and then we do a lookup for the ID, which returns us the Ninja org name, the Ninja org ID, I guess. And then I set a variable here for to hold the ConnectWise organization ID. Have some logic here. Basically, I have a company name variable and a ConnectWise org ID variable. Right here, I look up the company name and set it there. So I loop through the organization variables. I find the organization variable whose name is Ninja org ID, so this one. And then I'm say, if the value of Ninja org ID matches the organization ID of the company, then we're going to set the company name as that. So in other words, we find Ninja org ID, and if the ID matches 4, then the company is ProTech Support in Rewst, at least. So company name in this case will be ProTech Support. If I look up my own device in Ninja, if that makes sense. This next block basically just sets a default value of ProTech Support. If we don't have, if a company in the RMM isn't in Rewst, for whatever reason, or whatever, if there's an error or something doesn't work right, we just set it to ProTech Support so that we still get a ticket under some company. It's going to be under our company, and then we can just move it over ourselves to the right company. But the next part is where we basically kind of work backwards. We grab the name of, so we loop through the organization variables again. If the organization name is equal to the company name variable, so ProTech Support in this case, and the variable name is CW Manage Company ID, then we're going to set the CW org ID to the value. So here's the one that belongs to ProTech Support. So this is the value we're going to get. And then we just print that out so that CW org ID is equal to, whatever this value is. And then we're going to get the configs. So all we care about are from ConnectWise for the configs. We care about the ID, the name, and the questions. So if the name contains, this is a little confusing, but it's basically the device name. So if the config name contains the device name, and the type / name contains managed, so this will be either managed server or managed workstation. It's just the type we have. And if it's active, then yeah, that's what we're gonna return. And we're gonna create a variable off of this. So we might get multiple configs back, if there are configs that have multiple configs with the same name, if a device was reloaded or whatever and the config wasn't cleared out, we need to match the right one, right? So basically we set a blank list, then we loop through the configs that was returned, and then we look at the questions. We loop through the questions. If the answer exists, basically. So we want to know if the question is equal to Ninja RMM device URL, and the answer contains the URL for Ninja, as well as the Ninja device ID, which will be in that URL, then that's the one we want. So we're going to add that config to the matched configs. And so that's what we have put there. So that's matched config is a variable that contains the ID for the config for that device. And then we output that. So again, we have our config ID, which is the matched config.id. I have a default value just for errors because whatever happens. And then we have our org ID. So yeah, this is pretty much it. If I throw this into just a test workflow, basically I can grab the device. So this is my device ID. I throw it in here. I throw the device ID in that Subworkflow, and then I get that object back, and then I can create a ticket with that. So I give it a name. I choose the board, and then I say cwinfo.cworgid for the company. And I just to show that name thing, that computer name, I threw it in here. The device is having issues, and then CW info.returned ninja device name. And then I add the config to the ticket. So the config is that cwinfo.cwconfig ID, and then the ticket ID that I created here. And that creates this ticket. So yep, there's the text I have, and then there's the config, and it's under our company. So yep, that's pretty much it.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for Al on that? That was awesome. I love seeing it.
I know this was one of your easier ones. Can you tell us a little bit about the value that it's provided you? Like, has it saved you folks any time? Like, where is it helping you?
So this helps me when I build other automations. So it's not like helping the help desk or anything, but it's like I've done enough automations that I've had to do lookups myself and open tickets for, like, if a device is having issues, I have to open a ticket for that device. But I'm like, okay, now I have to find out the company that device belongs to and map it to the company in ConnectWise and give it the config. Like, it's just kind of a pain. So this is one that like helps save me time, so I don't have to keep building out the same stuff in every workflow that I do.
Awesome.
All right. And now we have just enough time left. Jim Barry, the floor is yours.
Hi, everybody. Happy Friday again. I'm going to show two different things today. One of them is what I call an absolute quick and dirty. I'll leave that one for last because that's literally just because I'm lazy. First one I'm going to show you, we switched payment processors recently. I think it was like November, December timeframe. And they don't have a great notification system other than email. And we like when our account managers and other staff know about customer payments to their account. But instead of 6 or 7 people getting email, which then invariably takes time to go check and delete and whatever, I spoke to the vendor. They do have a roadmap for other notification systems, but it's going to be in product, not like a Teams notification or anything. So that to me is even potentially worse than the email notifications, because then you have to like drop everything and go log into the platform to go look. So I don't know, I was just sort of like troubleshooting something with one of the brand new functions in that process. And I'm like, everybody's getting notified for these things. And we have like this 1 or 2 days a month where we have like this flood of payments, thankfully, where, our agreements get paid by customers through the payment platform. And that could be a lot of emails, and it could also be, times 6 or 7 people. It's a lot of noise and a lot of time. So I did find that there is a way to suppress all notifications, and I created a fake user that doesn't exist in our company that does get a notification, but that goes to an email of a shared mailbox. And what I did was, I'm going to show you, I suck in and reformat this, very long, pretty email that nobody really cares about, right? We just need like a one-liner from each payment. So I can't see, oh, there it is. Couldn't find the window to share. So essentially what I did was I created a shared mailbox on our Office 365 environment. And when something hits that inbox every few minutes during business hours, there's a cron that checks the inbox. It could probably be a webhook. It could probably be a lot of things, but this was like the path of least resistance. I just wanted to sort of get it done. So there's a cron that runs, it checks the inbox. And if there's stuff in there, I'll show you in the workflow in a minute. If there's stuff in there, it grabs it. And when it's done, it moves it to process. And the process folder, I think, has like a 30 or 60-day retention policy. And it just deletes out of there because it's literally irrelevant data afterwards. So basically, the workflow is pretty simple. uses a graph action to check for messages in the shared mailbox. If there's no results, goodbye. If there are results, we're going to go to this processor because Subworkflow, because there could be more than one in rapid succession. So we need to be able to process multiple messages. And if for whatever reason this failed, I'll go to an error processor, which is another Subworkflow. I believe the message processor is a little bit more complicated because essentially it has to iterate through the messages and pick and choose what it's going to do. It's going to start and get the details, so basically read the message, and then I'm going to parse the subject, because with the subject, I can decide what I'm going to do with the message. Is it a payment? Is it a payout? Or is it a customer requesting access to the portal? Or if this thing failed, either way, it's going to go to the error processor because there's a failure. So the next thing that happens, we have a couple more Subworkflows. Is it going to send the payment to the team? These don't have the same destination. That's why they're separated. This basically is a send to teams Subworkflow that we use for many other things. And all I'm doing in here is I'm sending the body of the message to a specific team and the channel within the team. And if it's not going to an individual, I just set that to none. And so if you look at these sort of pathways, they're largely the same. It's just what are the destinations for these different message types that might come in. And then when I'm all good and done, sending those messages over to teams, I find that process folder and I move the message. And in every case, just in case, I fail over to the error processor. And here's like a typical execution when it found something. It basically jumps down the Subworkflow, and then if there's a send message to the team, it's using the Subworkflow to deal with the majority of the process. And there's two different executions. This one has 15 results. This one has 14 results. And I think the difference is one is a payment and the other one's a payout. And there's one or two more little things that happen. So this is a redacted sort of screenshot from the Teams message that goes to the larger group in the company that shows that a payment for an individual invoice was received from, says the name of the customer and the amount and the invoice number. And largely, this is just by parsing the inbound email. And I'll come back to the workflow in a minute to show how I did that. And so this is where it's going to a channel. This is where it's coming to me because it's just the payout, like it's the grouped payments. So essentially, instead of 6 or 7 people wasting 6 or 7 times the amount of time, and I think it's on like the 25th of the month, you could get bombarded. There could be somewhere between 30 and 70 notifications in your inbox. And they're individually sort of important. In here, I believe, yeah. So the parsing of the subject is easy, right? Because that's something that comes back in the API call from the message. But when I go to process the payment body, I'm looking for a certain pattern within the originally received email. And it took me a while, I guess, to figure out that Ninja could do a lot of the heavy lifting for this. I was trying to do it more like my traditional procedural, sort of like many steps in code. So this was probably what took the longest, but in the end, it really didn't take all that long to break apart the HTML-ness of the vendor's notification and turn it into a very shortened result, like a one-liner, so that we don't create too much noise in the channel, which is what used to happen with our older payment processor when we were basically just forwarding the payment messages to teams. So this also helped reduce some visual clutter for our team by using this Jinja to sort of condense and pick out the information. And the payout one was, it's similar, but at the end of the day, the body is different, right? And I went through some iterations to get this one right. And then the vendor ridiculously sent, if there's only one payment in the payout, the format is completely different than when there's multiple payments. So this one took probably a little longer because I didn't realize that would happen until it happened. So I had to come back to this in a future date, like a few days after the occurrence. And so this one is more, this whole automation is really more about just saving multiple people repetitive steps of keeping their inbox clean and reducing the volume of noise. And that's it on this one. If anybody has any questions before I jump over to the next one. Nope.
Two-minute warning.
Okay. This last one.
Speed run.
Yeah, speed run. This last one is super quick and dirty. I'm very, very lazy, and this one thing happens once a month for our QuickBooks commissions that we basically have to send an invoice out. And I don't like to create tickets manually. I hate it because I always forget to do something. So I basically send myself this Teams notification when this ticket is created. And what I usually screw up when I create this is I start and I create the ticket on the wrong board, and I forget to put the attachments on the ticket, and I certainly forget to add the product rows to the ticket. So this workflow is, well, you can see it here. It's super short, but when I say it's quick and dirty, I'm talking about dirty. Most things are just the ID values because I know what they are. And I don't care because nobody will ever use or touch this workflow except for me. And it's just to save me time. So I cheated and built it. This is what I call it quick and dirty. There is no dry in this entire workflow. It's just about getting myself to the finish line very quickly, consistently. And that's it.
So there's no dry, but there's also no wet.
There's no wet. Yeah, exactly.
All right,
Exactly.
We're right at time here. Thank you.
Good.
That's impressive.
We had a lot of first-time demoers today. I want to thank you for stepping up and doing this. It's stressful, but just like Flo, everyone here wants to see you succeed in your demo, and they're interested in what you have to say. So thank you again, and we hope that for you first timers, we see you present again. Hey everybody, it's about that time. We're closing up shop. We'll see you again next Friday, same
Thank
time.
you.
Have a good weekend, everybody.
Happy Friday, everyone. Bye.
Stay warm, stay cool, stay safe. See ya.
See you next week.